Welcome once more to the Diplomatic Lounge. In a previous episode, we briefly touched upon President Kennedy's speech about world peace and disarmament in the summer of 1963, just a few months before he was assassinated. Now, if we go back to 1918 and we see what the feeling was at the end of the First World War, in the Covenant of the League of Nations, that's the predecessor of today's United Nations, global disarmament was a very prominent idea, and there were very specific issues addressed in that covenant, including the idea that to leave arms production in private hands was dangerous in itself. If we do fast forward to 1945 and the founding of the United Nations, we see that by contrast in the Charter of the UN, the ideas and initiatives about disarmament are very, very few and very vague. Today, of course, with at least two vicious wars in full swing, international arms trade is blooming and thriving. And it's a very specific kind of trade. We have to remember not only that Hitler saved the German economy simply by putting it on a war footing, but not to forget that FDR did more or less the same in the United States, because it was, after all, the enormous takeoff of war material production that brought the American economy back from the crisis of the 1930s. And after the Second World War, the development of nuclear arms and other heavy material, interballistic missiles, etc., made President Eisenhower give the warning when he ended his mandate about the uncontrolled power of what he then called the military-industrial complex. And that warning is still valid today. If we look at the US economy, it's clear that much of civilian material production is not there anymore, but the United States still makes the best warplanes, tanks, missiles, submarines, etc. And China, for all its money and all its reserves, has mostly been copying those designs for its own production and its own defense. So arms trade internationally is shady business. It has always been and will always be. There will always be people who are willing to sell arms to both sides in a conflict. Many diplomats in their career will have come across what we call end-user certificates, which means that when arms are sold officially by one government to another, the diplomats are often supposed to make sure that these arms will stay in hands of official authorities and will not be passed on to non-desirable partners, let's say. Now, this is often an illusion, because whatever is signed by a government has never stopped arms from crossing borders and going underground and surfacing in the wrong hands. And I'm afraid what we're seeing today is only a confirmation of that. Where does Hamas get its weapons? Where does the Houthis get their weapons? Where do all kinds of guerrilla movements in Latin America get their weapons? It's a simple question. It's a business, stupid, and it will always be. We have also to bear in mind that whatever the outcome of a war is, whether winner or loser, the ones that always make money are the arms traders and the arms manufacturers. In fact, it's a little cynical to think that when a country loses a war, as has happened to the United States, think Afghanistan, think Vietnam, it's more lucrative for the arms trade than when a war is won, because all the material that has been lost or destroyed will have to be replaced. And so it goes. It's not a pretty picture. We can still maintain a sort of utopian belief that one day it will be possible to stop this madness of arms production as it is now. But it will always be a dream, I'm afraid. And I remember when At some point in time, when I was working in New York, I was living right across from the UN in Tudor City. And when coming down the stairs towards First Avenue in the morning, I saw on the wall the inscription from Scripture, from the prophet Isaiah: "They will beat their swords into plowshares." Well, it's still a dream. We can't give up on it. But to be realistic, arms trades, arms traders, arms manufacturers are still doing very good business, and I'm afraid that is going to be the case for the foreseeable future. Again, let's reflect on this. Take care and thank you.